Hey, welcome back to the Confidad podcast. My name's Dan Tinquist, your host. So glad you chose to join us today. Let's start with our fatherhood mindset like we do with every episode. I'm the only one who can fulfill the father role that I have, so I choose to do it well. I get to show up well for my kids. Imperfection is reality. Ownership is a choice. Today is brand new. So is tomorrow. I am wholly loved, so I will love wholly. In today's equipping section, I want to talk about car coaching. There's this really popular, what is going on with my video? Why are you so close? I don't like that. In today's equipping section, I want to talk about car coaching. There are so many parents who, when they bring their kid into the car, whether it's home or back to the hotel after a game, they find it so difficult not to do car coaching. Now, most of it is coming from a place of care. Actually, I want to give the benefit of the doubt to every dad out there that is doing car coaching, because you care about the performance and you care about their growth. And so you're trying to help them. Okay. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Our kids, though, are not a problem to solve or a project to finish. They are people to be known. And their athletic performance or lack of performance, depending on your view of it, is not a reflection on you as a parent. And if it is, you're using it for the wrong reason. Their athletic performance should have nothing to do with your identity. And if it does, we should talk, because that is way too much pressure to be putting on a kid who already has the weight of the world on their shoulders. Anxiety and depression rates among kids aged 8 to 14, all-time high. And what is anxiety? Anxiety is essentially worrying about tomorrow, worrying about what could happen. Now, think about a kid who's worried about what they say, what they're dressed like, what people think of them all the time at school. And then, so they're already worried about that. And then you throw on top of that the pressure to perform so you can feel like a good dad or a successful dad or whatever it is. We might all agree that car coaching is not a great thing to be doing. Not only is it making the kid feel more pressure, but does it actually produce the results that you want? Like, when's the last time you did car coaching and the kid actually responded? Maybe some kids do. I haven't met a lot that can. I know one family that car coaching is a thing that happens consistently. And from a distance, as I watch, the bond between father and son is slowly dissolving. Because as the kid gets older, they realize they can't do enough to satisfy the father's demands. And therefore, they just kind of quit trying or shut down because they don't feel safe. They don't feel like I can do anything to keep dad happy. Now, say you're already in agreement with me. You already don't want to do car coaching. You don't have any desire to be in that place. And yet you still struggle with being present no matter the performance. Is that you? When your kid has a really tough game, do you have a hard time being in that sadness with them, in the struggle with them? When your kid has a great game, do you have a easier time being present with them? Because that's performance-based presence. When they meet their goals, when they play a great game, when they don't have a lot of gaps, it's easy to be present then. But what about when they're struggling? What about when they had a bad game? It's a lot harder to be present. And if you don't know how to be present in uncomfortable situations like silence and solitude with yourself, How are you going to be able to be present with your children in uncomfortable situations like poor performance? So here's an idea on how we can become present no matter the performance. First, remember the long game. Remember why we're here. Remember what actually matters. Does this one game matter? Maybe today, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week. Maybe it was a big game and it was a playoff game. Sure, it matters. But in the grand scheme of decades of life together and a legacy worth leaving, where does this one game fit in the grand scheme? Okay, so now you know where it sits in priority, in perspective. You're able to sit in the sadness, sit in the frustration, sit in the discomfort with your kid because you have the future in sight, in your mind. Step 2, reflect back their feelings. If they're frustrated, say, yeah, me too. If they're angry or sad, help them know that you see that. Help them know that you hear them. Let them know it's okay to be disappointed. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be frustrated. Okay, validate the emotion. Here's what you don't need to do. Okay, this isn't step 3. This is don't do. When your kid makes a big mistake or makes a mistake on the field and they lose a game or something, it's a really tough experience for them. Do you not think they're already thinking about the negative things? Yeah, probably. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're aloof and just not attuned to it. Well, that's a whole different podcast on how to coach kids through those moments. But most kids, especially really competitive ones, they're already thinking about the mistakes. They're already processing what did I do wrong and what could I do better. So we don't need to necessarily give them more things to think about. We need to meet them where they're at. Okay? And ask them before you tell them, tell me about the game. How you feeling about it? Ask open-ended questions. Like I teach in the time well spent method, in these windows after games when you're in the car, instead of coaching and telling them you should have done this and shouldn't have done that, engage with them with curiosity and see how they are reflecting on their performance. See how they are thinking about what happened, because this not only helps you gain a different perspective because they're going to have a different perspective than you will, but it also helps you know them better, helps you know how to respond when these situations come up. You're able to step in and say, how do I help my child process through with resilience and grit in failure, to produce growth, to produce perseverance, to produce the things within athletes that we know they need to grow and thrive, right? So don't tell them all the things they did wrong. Ask them, how'd you feel about that? Open-ended questions, right? And then as they talk, if they're only bringing up negative things, say things like this. Well, what about that great play that you made at third? What about? Using that sentence can be a really helpful way to help bring them into a positive mindset, not ignoring the mistakes, not pushing past them, but understanding there's hardly ever an experience that is all negative. There's got to be some positive things in there. There's hardly ever an experience that's all positive either, though, and there's going to be negative things that happen, right? Whether you want to call that, like, there's no such thing as perfection, right? There's always room for improvement. But when we're talking about improvement, when we're talking about growth, if we're only ever highlighting the negative things, the things that they got wrong or that they failed in, that can quickly become a heavy burden that they feel like they have to step up to. They have to reach your expectation because maybe they think your goal is getting in the car after a game one time and having nothing to say. Because if they did everything perfect, you wouldn't have anything to say because you wouldn't have anything to correct. It's a big burden. What do you think would happen if your wife asked you to be perfect and it was like waiting for that time, that weekend where you did everything right and she has nothing to say at the end of it because she has nothing to correct you on? You see how it's changed? Like when you're in that seat, how it's different? Maybe your boss is waiting for you to not make any mistakes. They got nothing to say. Does that make you want to rise up and be perfect, or does it feel like a burden? Now, maybe some kids are going to respond to this, like I said, in a way that is positive and does push them. A large number of kids however, are struggling with anxiety and depression. And when we put this athletic pressure on top of them, it creates a multiplier on those emotions, on that experience. And so I'd encourage you and empower you to be a positive influence, to reflect back and listen to what they have to say, to understand what are the things that they're going through, that they're processing in their brain, that I can join with them, meet them where they're at, and help them improve with almost like a kid-led improvement process. Okay. Not always. We shouldn't always let our kids lead in that. But I think some of the time we need to balance it out and say, I'm going to let my kid lead the process here. I'm going to let my kid understand that they have a say in their growth. They have a say in the critique. They have a say in the improvement process. Because if it's always just top down, I haven't seen that go well. In fact, more kids are quitting sports these days because of that at a younger age, because they're just want to go have fun. They want to learn the sport. They want to grow. They want to have fun with their friends. All the while, dad's over their shoulder saying, don't do that, do this, hit that, don't do this, make sure you're doing this, and putting all this pressure on. And kids are like, meh, I'm done. I've seen it. And it's sad. So our kids deserve to have a childhood without big expectations put on them by us because we think that they need to perform better. So are you able to be present no matter their performance? Are you able to show up as the dad that your kid needs after a game instead of critiquing every little mistake that they made? So I guarantee when you're critiquing and you're car coaching and you're bringing up all the things they did wrong, you're not being present with them and you're not feeling like a safe place for them. Choose your own adventure, right? Like you're their dad. I'm not telling you how to parent, but I am asking you the question, is your presence dictated by their performance? And if it is, change it. Do better. Man up. Be the dad that your kids need, even after a game. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in the next episode.